Yes.
Into oblivion.
Yep. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Areopagus. It is just me and Shane today. Mr. Eddie and Mr. Scott are in Albania on a mission trip. So they have not been informed yet, and I will inform them when they get back. I'll probably wait till Friday afternoon to inform them that next podcast we're going to discuss their trip. I want to know how it went. I mean, that's just, you spend 8 days there. I'm curious to hear stories and stuff. So, so that's what we'll talk about for next week. Let me get that time rolling. First off, guys, I would ask that y'all would like, share, and subscribe. Let's get the word out, and to help spread. The message of God. The only way some enchantment and our conversations will get shared is if it is liked and shared, so that it actually kicks into the algorithm. So just thank y'all for that. And today we are going to be talking about a few passages throughout Isaiah. So Eddie, I'm sorry, but you're missing some Old Testament stuff.
How about that, Eddie? Wait until you were gone.
and then Shane comes up with, well, let's go into the Old Testament for a little bit. But I was asking Shane this week because I knew it would just be me and him if he had some ideas or something that he'd like to talk about. Just because I was drawing a blank. I got sick this week, had some kind of stomach bug, I'm guessing, or food poisoning. I'm not sure which, but whichever way it went, it sucked. It put me down for about 2 days, and I got behind because I taught Sunday school this morning that you missed, which I still don't understand why he couldn't cover his, but anyway, that's neither here nor there.
We're not for the podcast.
That is neither here nor there. So Shane came up with the idea of talking about a few passages in Isaiah that is the and is a foretelling of Christ to come. And so I got out my fancy dancy study Bible, or one of my fancy dancy study Bibles, and I was just curious when the book of Isaiah was written. So it was written in between 700 and 680 BC. So give or take 650 or 695 years before Christ was born. And I know that I've briefly read through the book of Isaiah. I know that Isaiah does talk a lot about the forecoming of Christ, or at least when you read it, it sounds a lot like, well, Christ did this and this happened to Christ and different things like that. So with that being said, I'm going to let Shane come in this ball off, and we will just go through the verses that he found, and we'll discuss each one and try and just to help prove and show that even though Christ was not there, God knew he was coming, and Isaiah could feel that he was coming. So
yeah, I'm going to cheat and use kind of a Cliff Notes version just to kind of cover everything, because it's kind of spread out a little bit. But, just kind of as an overview, I like the overview that just Googling about Isaiah foretelling of Christ coming or the Messiah. It says in Isaiah, Jesus is described as Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Isaiah 9:6, and the Suffering Servant in Isaiah 53, who would be ordinary in appearance, despised and rejected, bearing sorrows and iniquities for others, healing and peace. He would grow like a tender shoot from dry ground and be disfigured beyond human likeness through suffering. Which, I mean, nobody can deny that the crucifixion, disfigured him and had to be the ultimate suffering. He's also portrayed as a powerful, righteous ruler who would bring justice. And that's the kind of the cool thing about it is it. He was never prophesied to be a warlord, to come in and destroy, the Roman Empire. He was coming to free us in a whole different way. And that's why I think the Bible describes it as, that people would have eyes but not be able to see. Because it wasn't what they had envisioned in their head and the human brain come up with, oh, well, this is what it's going to be, and it wasn't anything like that. He was coming to save us in a whole new radical way. I think in Isaiah 9, says, for us a child is born, a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. Jesus came in a way that, without demanding authority, if just the apostles showed just walking with him, they gave ultimate authority to Jesus. Whatever he said, was law.
Well. I mean, Christ says that in Matthew 28:16, I believe he says, all authority on earth and heaven has been given to me.
Right.
So, I mean, he fulfills that part.
Right.
And he and he fulfills that part of Scripture, that prophecy. There's the word.
Yep.
Prophecy. Let's see. The Lord's chosen servant. I'm looking through these that you sent me. I'm in 42 right now. 1 through 4. Behold, the servant whom I uphold, the chosen in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations. He will not cry. He will not cry aloud or lift up his voice or make it heard in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a faintly burned wick he will not quench. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not grow faint to be discouraged till he has established justice on the earth, and the coastlines await his law. That one to me feels more like a second coming than now. I just briefly read through it.
Yeah, I know that one there was parts of it that are a little confusing, as far as relating them to him. But when you think about it, Jesus said that he would come. You remember he said he didn't come to bring. Well, no, wasn't peace. What's the word I'm looking for? He came. He was going to create division, but it wasn't
to create division.
It wasn't like, again, what we think as human beings. We naturally go to. Well, to be honest, we think of it in a kind of a violent way, where Jesus is saying no. When he creates division, it's going to be because certain people will see him for who he is. They'll hear his message for what it is. They'll take it to heart, and their lives will radically change. Friends and family And we experience this. I mean, I think everybody that has turned to Christ has experienced this in some form or fashion where, the people you used to hang out with, the people you used to run with, don't understand you and think that you're, a lot of times they'll say, oh, you're trying to be a goody-goody two-shoes and this and that. And it's because they don't understand. But your life has been radically changed, and a whole new sense of peace that you never knew. And that's one thing that I can absolutely say with certainty, that I've had plenty of turmoil in my life. I've had plenty of ups and downs. I've had plenty of times where I was angry, I was depressed, just all the different things that we all experience as humans. But the one thing that I can count on over the last few years is I've had more challenges financially, stress-wise, just the load that's been put on me. And I guarantee you, I couldn't be as comfortable as I am and be able to shed that like water off a duck's back if I didn't have Christ in my life and didn't have Him to go to every single day and discuss my problems and know that in the end, He keeps my eye on the ball. And I realize that, yes, I want to build up my business. I want to do good at work. I want to make money so that my family is comfortable. But in the end, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter, because Christ is enough. I said it before the Chosen episode come out, but when it come out and they showed them at dinner, I never heard it before, but they're going one by one and describing, even if you don't do this, God is enough. You haven't seen them in Last Supper on the version of Chosen?
No, I'm
Okay.
still. So on the Chosen, I kind of hit season 4, and I just kind of dropped off, and I need to pick back up.
Whatever you do, don't go on TikTok or Facebook or any other social media and look for the sneak peeks of the next season that's coming out, season 6. There's snippets of the crucifixion on there, and I don't know how I'm going to handle it, because I was telling one of my coworkers, getting off topic here, but I want to say this just because I'm one of the biggest fans of The Chosen there is. I think Dallas has done a fantastic job of making it relatable to us. I don't care that it's not word for word biblical. It is when it comes to the important stuff. You're right. But Jonathan, I don't know that if God didn't personally go give him the divine right to play that part as an actor, nothing more, as an actor, I've never seen anybody embody that role in his mannerisms, his look, the whole 9 yards. He's just, in my mind, he's the perfect human being to pretend to be Christ.
Right.
In a movie. He's awesome. And the emotional attachment to that man is beyond through the roof. And so I was just scrolling. I'm like, oh, hey, look, I hadn't seen that yet. Oh, it's a preview for season 6. Oh, cool. So they're watching and watching and watching, and then all of a sudden it comes to the part that we all know. It's not a spoiler alert. It's in the Bible. We've known it for a while. Them nailing him to the cross and then him on the cross. And I just set my phone down. It took me 20 minutes to get ready for work because I needed a minute to put myself back together, just because that was the Passion of Christ was hard enough to watch, but I didn't have that emotional connection with the actor that played Jesus in that one. I can't think of his name, but he did a great job, not knocking him at all, but I didn't have that emotional connection.
Well, that's the one common thing that I see different in between a movie and a series. Like I've always laughed and joked about, if I were one of Christ's disciples, I'd be more like Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Quick mouth, hot-tempered, reactive. And and the more I've watched The Chosen, and seeing the way Simon is and reacts and is towards things and does things and addresses things, approaches, and then when he's named into Peter, he's given his new name, and then why. And then I'm into woman watching how he realizes, okay, I have to be different. I have to change something. And his temperament and all that really doesn't change that I've seen. It's his emotional response behind that has changed.
Right.
And like, you said, I've always laughed and said just what I knew about Peter. I'm like, that's my guy. Is Peter. And you see it, and I'm like, yeah, it's really there. You get attached to where it is in a movie. It's real quick, and there's no growth there.
Right.
Like there is with a season, but yeah, you're right, John. Nathan does a great job, and if I were to picture Christ in human form, it's not this blue-eyed, blonde-haired, fair skin that the European Revolution, when it was coming up, made Christ out to be.
Yeah.
No, Christ was a brown man with dark hair and brown eyes. I mean, that's just how it was. He was a Jewish man from the Middle East.
Right.
That is what it is.
Exactly.
But you're right, and you develop an attachment more with people when it's in a seasoned series against a movie. Why is your phone picking up me saying that?
You said series, but the way you said it was a little too close to her name, so she picked it up.
She should recognize your voice against mine.
She picks up anybody.
Oh, sorry.
After a couple weeks ago, we talked about that, but I saw a meme on Facebook that really was quite profound and honestly hit home. I don't know who wrote it, or I'd give them credit for it, but basically it said, the way y'all feel about Charlie, imagine what the apostles felt like. And it's like, holy cow, to think, because I know how I felt about Charlie. I never met the man, never saw him on anything other than my phone or TV, And
did you see that Vody Bacham died?
No.
He died last week. It was some medical emergency.
No.
Him being an older black male, I haven't heard what the actual thing is, but it being a medical emergency in an older black male, it was probably something to do with high blood pressure or his heart. But yes, Vody Bacham died. It was Tuesday or Wednesday, and we lost him too.
Oh my gosh.
So,
I did not hear anything about the 56 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and that dude, he was absolute fire.
Oh yeah.
I mean, for Charlie I know Charlie did a great job of spreading the word of Jesus and doing his thing, but he was not primarily. He got to start being political, and that's how most people knew him, going from political and then, of course that. But Vody was, man, you talk about a theologian, that dude was fire, and he had the right way of saying things. I mean, I did not know that. I had no idea he died.
It was Tuesday or Wednesday. I found your verse on division. So what is Luke 12, 49 through 53, it is titled Not Peace But Division.
Right.
It says, I came to cast fire on the earth and would it were already
Kindled.
enkindled. Am I reading that right? That does not make sense.
I came to cast fire on the earth, and would that it were already kindled. So basically, saying it was already, the spark was already there.
Yeah.
He basically threw gas on
Right.
what was already there. I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how great is my distress until it is accomplished. Do you think that I have come to give peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. For from now on, in one house there will be 5 divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing is, when he talks about that, it sounds like aggressive language until you understand what it truly means. But just like Jesus said, there's going to be people that hate him, and they hate him for all the wrong reasons, and it's because he speaks truth, and people don't want to hear truth.
So this is the verse I've heard spoke a lot. I had to look it up. You're seeing, or if you're not seeing, you're blind, or you just stay off of all social media and away from news networks, and you're a much happier person than anybody I know.
Probably so.
But when you look at things, you're seeing a very stark line now.
Oh, there's no question.
Our gray in our culture, in our world, at least here in the West, our gray is becoming more black and white. You're seeing the division. And Matthew 25, verse 32, it says, before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats.
Mm-hmm.
There's starting to be a division now of those who who support Charlie Kirk and what he did, and those who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And the line is becoming very clear. It's not, well, this and that and the other. Christ came to split us apart, to separate us from the world. And you're seeing that now more than ever, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I really think this happening in these past few weeks, the way I have felt a shift in the nation, the way things are going, this is God getting our attention, going, okay, it's time to pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
And stand firm on your foundation. I did get a kick out of, I don't know if you read or saw or heard this or not, but apparently the rapture was supposed to happen last week on the 23rd.
Okay, so that's what all those stupid memes are about on Facebook. I had no idea.
Well, the rapture was supposed to happen on the 23rd.
Okay.
So
Jesus didn't know the time, but other people do. Okay.
Either A, they were wrong, or B, I'm in trouble because I missed it.
I'm quite confident that there's enough people that have true salvation. It'd be hard to miss when it happens. I don't know that there's going to be any doubt.
Right.
You know, I think it's going to be, uh-oh. If you're still here, yeah, you're going to be like,
Well,
okay, well, I don't know what it was that got me off of the bus, but I'm going to make up for it now. I hope I don't have to find that out, but, you know, it is what it is, so.
we got way off topic.
Yeah, I know it,
but it's fine. This is a just where it goes episode. I know that one of the other passages you mentioned was 52 and 53.
Yeah, 53 is the big one.
Yeah, that's on the one I want to look at real quick.
Like I say, I just pulled up the Cliff Notes version of it, but you know it's titled 53. Basically covers the suffering servant, and it talks about appearance and suffering. You know how he would be disfigured, the rejection and shame. He would be despised and rejected by men. A man of sorrows, familiar with suffering. Atonement. His purpose would be to bear our infirmities and sorrows of others, to be pierced for our transgressions and crushed for their iniquities. His punishment would bring them peace. By his wounds they would be healed. You know, and then the last two, silent sacrifice. He would be led like a lamb to the slaughter, suffering and dying without opening his mouth. Intercession. He would intercede on our behalf or on behalf of transgressors. You know, and so, I mean, it's just so spot on when you hear all the, the stories of Jesus' crucifixion. You know, the one thing you never hear is the stories of him crying out. You know, when you read in detail what scourging really was, you know, how it was performed and what it did, I mean, it's horrific.
You know,
those are some evil people come up with something like that.
Yeah, you know, it's. I find it interesting when people or I hear people, because I watch a lot of these history shows and some of this stuff that is supposed to be about Christ in the Bible. I don't know where they get their information from, but I'm watching the show and I'm like, that's wrong. But the most interesting comment I hear about the resurrection of Christ and the death of Christ is, well, maybe they just thought he was dead.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Well, to those people, if anyone who hears this or sees this, and you've had that thought in your head, well, maybe he was what wasn't dead. He just passed out. Looked up first century Roman crucifixion.
Mm-hmm.
The Romans were really good at doing one
experts.
thing, and that's killing.
Yes.
Then taking the spear to the side when blood and water poured out. Well, for medically today, we know that water was pulmonary edema. He was drowning. He was dead.
Yep. If you don't want to do the research, just watch the movie A Case for Christ.
Exactly.
And they'll go over the medical. The guy that tried to disprove the crucifixion met with a medical. Yeah, Lee Strobel met with a medical expert, and there was an article written in a scientific journal, whatever the big medical journal is, and he names it in the show. But they go through all that, and he's talking about just the scourging alone. you're tearing down to the muscle. He would have bled out. Even if they hadn't nailed him to the cross, he'd have been dead by the end of the day.
Well, yeah,
from that.
And you look at the flogging and the scourging, these whips they used were filled with bone and spikes and metal balls and hooks, to where, the Passion is the closest thing that we have today that doesn't even begin to describe what Christ went through.
Right.
But when you watch it closely, you see at one point the whip wraps around his side, one of those metal spikes dig in, and when they yank it away, you actually see the muscle and the bone exposed.
Yes, I know.
Imagine that his whole back, legs, arms. Then when they realized there was nothing else to do on his back, they rolled him over and began on his front.
Yeah.
Which is why it's somewhere in Isaiah, it says he would be so dismembered you wouldn't be able to tell if he was male or female.
Right. That was the first 53. That was what we just read. That it says, appearance of suffering. He would, his appearance would become so disfigured from suffering that he would be beyond human resemblance.
Yes.
I mean, 700 years before.
I mean,
this torture had even been thought up, Isaiah wrote about it.
Was it Isaiah or Ezekiel who talks about the spikes in my heel? I don't remember if it was Isaiah or Ezekiel.
I don't know.
But one of them, or might have been David. No, one of them talk about how they dreamt that they were being and a spike was driven through their hands and feet. This was way before crucifixion. No one had ever had spikes driven through them at that point in time. So how would he know what that would be like?
That's the thing, he wouldn't. And that's what a lot of people don't get is, and they cover it in that movie, as well, that after they tore his flesh from his body, everybody thinks, oh, well, they just nailed him to a cross, and nobody thinks about what the cross would actually be like. You understand, it's not going to be this table right here.
No, it's
a honed log, and
he's having to drag his back
to
up
get
and down it to breathe. Exposed nerves, bones, tendons. The excruciating. And the word excruciating comes from the crucifix and from crucifix, because it's couldn't even imagine.
It's awful to think about, and so anyway, yeah, that's.
But yes, Isaiah does have a lot of reference to the coming of Christ. I think the last one's in 63. What did you have? No, 61. Too many pages. I keep turning too many pages. And the Spirit of the Lord God set upon me, because the Lord anointed me to bring. Oh yes. So this is another the one. It's Isaiah 6:61. It says, "The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to women the captive, and the opening of the prisons to those who are bound, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of the vengeance of our God, and to comfort all who mourn, to grant to all those who mourn in Zion, to give them beautiful headdress installed to ashes, and the old gladness instead of mourning, the garments of praise instead of the faint spirit, to that they may all be called oaks of righteousness, and the planting of the Lord, that he is to be glorified." I mean, it is just, Isaiah is a wonderful book.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much foretelling of what is to come in Isaiah that it's been a long time since I've read in Isaiah.
Yeah, it just makes it hard to dispute or to doubt when you have that lined up 700 years beforehand, you know, and to have that much detail. And you know, the naysayers are going to naysay. They'll of course, won't connect any dots that they don't want to connect. But I mean, it's anybody with a brain can look at that and go, nope, that pretty much is describing exactly what's going to happen, and it happened. So how are you going to explain that away?
Well, I think, and so a few weeks ago, I say a couple weeks ago, I guess, Jared was talking with the youth, and we were just talking about the Bible itself.
Mm-hmm.
When it was written, by whom it was written, where it was written, how accurate it is, all those different things. And just a quick tip, because we got time, for those who don't know, the Bible was written in a time span of about 1,500 years, give or take, by roughly 40 different people in 3 languages over 3 continents.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take it all, put it all together, you get the same story about the coming of Christ. It all lines up. Well, then you get these people say, well, you can't trust what man writes. Well, then how do you read your science book?
Exactly.
If you can't trust what man writes, how can you trust anything else you read? When this one has historical context. Archaeologists use the Bible, use Scripture as reference points to locate areas in the ancient Middle East. And it's historically accurate.
Yep. I always say that, you know, when people question that, I'm always like, if man really wrote that Bible, do you think that there would be a passage in there that says to love your enemy? Do you think there would be a passage in there that says if you look at a girl with lust, that basically you're committing adultery? No, we're not going to write that stuff in there.
Or better yet, knowing when Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written in the mid to late 1st century AD,
Mm-hmm.
what ancient Middle Eastern Jewish man is going to openly say that women found the empty tomb
Right.
and women came and told them that the tomb was empty and they listened
Mm-hmm.
to them?
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Right. I know.
So why would you even write it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that goes so far against ancient culture. And there's some cultures today who still go by that. Women aren't, and they're seen and not heard, and this and that, and that's, I don't understand it. I'm not a part of it. But there still are cultures today who do that. Why would you say it for everyone to read, knowing you're going against everything you're taught?
Yep.
I mean, it's the scripture itself is phenomenal. Some of it doesn't make sense to me strictly because I don't understand poetry.
Right.
Like a lot of the Psalms, I read them and I'm like, well, that's neat. But the poeticness and the song fielding, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand poetry though. I can read it and I'm like, okay, it's just a bunch of words that rhyme and might flow. But then you get into the historical parts and the different writing styles. I think there's 5 different writing styles and throughout the whole Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I recently heard a deal that I thought was interesting that was questioning if Moses actually wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, because throughout all 5 books there's different writing styles.
Okay.
Well, who says Moses couldn't write in more than one style? A, they were written in a span of 40 years because they were stuck in the wilderness because no one could keep their crap together long enough to go, he has saved us, he has proven this, why do we keep screwing up and going against him?
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of it was written at Sinai, at the base of Mount Sinai.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know that there are certain parts of the Torah that weren't written by Moses, because Moses can't write about his own death after he's dead.
Right.
I mean, that's a given. And so the next best person to have finished the Torah would have had to been the person that worked directly with Moses throughout that time, and that was Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Which would make sense because the 6th book in chronological order is Joshua when they go into the promised land. Joshua was second in command behind Moses. So it would make sense for him to finish telling the story that wasn't complete. It would just make sense.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing to me that the Bible itself, people try to disprove it as much as they can, go against it as much as they can, pick and choose which parts of it they like or don't like or agree with or don't agree with. So that's the part they adhere to or they stay away from. The way I see it is if I read something and I don't like what it says, I need to do some self-reflection.
Right.
Because there's something in me that is not agreeing with it and is making me feel ashamed or angry or sad or so I need to address something within me.
Right. And I've said it before, that I think that as you start reading the Bible, there's going to be a whole lot you don't understand. And then as you progress, you're going to get a better understanding. I think that God reveals things in a time that He wants you to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some things where it doesn't help you to understand it at that point. And so I think He reveals things to you in a timeline. And I think that's why it's important. I'm not saying don't go out and watch videos of somebody that's a more experienced theologian or something like that, but
and because you can learn a lot. I mean, I've watched a bunch of Frank Turek's stuff. I've watched a bunch of Bacham stuff, and you take it as the same way when your preacher preaches on Sunday morning. You're getting a different perspective, a different outlook on things, but it's also given, and with that different perspective allows you to critically think and do your own research.
And then pray on it and listen for the Holy Spirit to guide you.
Right. Yes. Which is one thing I liked. I'm trying to decide how I want to do it. If I want to go buy a new Bible.
Okay.
I haven't discussed this with Heather because the moment I mention a new Bible, I get that same look from her. She rolls her eyes and just goes, because that's what we need is another Bible.
Well,
I don't have plenty of them. I think I have 9, and that's not enough.
I think you got 9 here.
No, I got 4 over here. I keep 1 in my backpack. No, this is my backpack one.
Okay. So that's 4 over there. 5,
6. I got 7 just right here.
Yeah.
I have 1 in the van. That's my Sunday morning Bible. I have, so that's what, 8.
Yeah.
I have 11.
Yeah.
That I know for sure because I have at least 3, if not 4 more at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't have an NSAB.
Pre-95 NSAB.
Yeah. And so I still need to get that one to have that version. But
so what's the new one you're wanting?
I'm wanting another Bible. I just don't know which version I want to do yet. But I want to read the Gospels, go through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the same way you did with a single color highlighter. Highlight the stuff that stands out to me. When I read through it again, grab a different color highlighter. Because like you just said, God reveals things to us in His time that He wants us to see.
Right.
With them and that, I think it is not just that He wants us to see, but as we grow.
As we grow, exactly.
Things look different to us in our different stages of our growth in Christ. And so I want to do that. I want to get a Bible that has no highlighting in it, is brand new, and just go through and with one color read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And this particular Bible will be for that purpose. When I finish Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John with however many packs my highlighter, if it's four, I've read through it 4 times. If it's 5, I've read through it 5 times. I'll pick another book in the Bible and do the same thing. Read it multiple times. Highlight the different things that stand out to me and have a Bible strictly for that purpose.
Right. Yeah.
And because I have multiple different study Bibles, and the reason why I buy them the way I do is because I buy study Bibles in different translations.
Mm-hmm.
I have NIV, NLT, ESV, CSB, New King James, I think are the 5 I have a study Bible in.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm preparing for something and it's a specific passage, I'll read the passage in each one, because the reason translations are different in between ESV, CSB, NIV, NLT, and so on and so forth is because per copyright laws, you have to
25.
change X amount
Makes
of
25%. Yeah.
of the verbiage. They
Right.
still say the same thing.
Right. Just use a different word to describe it.
They just use a different word to describe it.
Yeah.
And so when you read something in a different way it's written, the reason why I tell people before they buy their first Bible to download a Bible app,
Mm-hmm.
read through a certain book in different translations, figure out which one makes the most sense to you when you read it, buy that translation.
Right.
Because if you're not understanding what you're reading, it's not going to do you any good because of the way it's wrote. And so, but when I get the different study Bibles, the commentary at the bottom is what I most enjoy, because I get multiple points of view on the same passage that helps me learn. Because if you're learning from different scholars and different theologians, they all might say the same thing, but it clicks better from this one.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the way it was said. It makes more sense.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that.
And so that's why I love a study Bible. But
yeah, what is it that is the Robertsons always say? They use the
the NIV.
NIV,
Yeah.
not the NLT.
Yeah, it's the NIV.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, there for a while I was doing the exact same thing before we even met, because that was one of the things you and I think when we first met, talked about, laughed about is,
Mm-hmm.
We both had a ton of Bibles because we both had the same thought on, well, I don't want to trust anybody else's opinion on what the differences are, and I hadn't learned about YouVersion yet, or they could have saved me a bunch of money because, it's free. But I had bought, the King James I just couldn't understand, and that was one of my frustrations was trying to read the Bible. I wanted to be a good Christian. I wanted to read the Bible and understand it, but I just can't make it through.
I don't talk
the King James.
Talk in Old English. I can't read in Old English.
Exactly. And
I talk in East Texan. There's a huge difference.
And they do have a YouVersion Bible, so for all you real East Texans. But, I'd done the same thing, and it was funny because I had landed on, I got the New King James, and I liked it.
I liked it.
And then I got an ESV, and boy, I mean, it was comfortable reading. It was just warm and fuzzy reading it. And then one day, Tim's preaching, and he mentions that I was wondering why, it's not worded the same. I was like, wonder what Bible he's using.
It's
probably
pretty close, but it's not
pastoral
exactly
Bible.
the
And
same.
he said, well, I preach from the CSB, but he likes to
study in the N and in the NASB.
NASB, yeah.
Him and Jared both prefer the NASB for when they study.
Right. And so I got a CSB study Bible, and it's at my apartment. That's the one I told you looks like a rainbow, because I'll sit there in the mornings. I've got a little cheap futon couch, and a coffee table, and on my coffee table is one of those little leather valets where my wallet, my knife, my watch, all my daily stuff is. And then my Bible's laying there, and I've got a 5 or 6 pack of Bible safe highlighters. And so in the mornings, my routine is, I get up, brush my teeth, shower, get dressed for work, do my breakfast supplements, and I come in, I sit down, turn off the TV, and I've got, it's usually right at 6 o'clock, 6:01, something like that, and I sit down, and I don't have to leave the apartment to be at work till 6:30, so I've got 30 minutes, and I'll read, and that's when I read and I pray, and I try to do it daily without fail. There's days where I just get up and whatever reason I'm just not mentally there. I'll try to read, and it's just like going, I'm not focused, and I'll just give up, say my prayers and leave. But for the most part, that's my morning routine. And, I only highlight if it makes me stop and reread the passage because it caught my attention. It's something I feel like, wait, I'm supposed to look at this again. And then so I'll highlight it so that I remember it next time, And then, come back, I'll go through. I usually, like I said, it's my personal opinion. I avoid Revelations like the plague. Just because I don't understand it. It's too confusing, and it just creates too much turmoil. Yeah. And the fact is, if I'm good with everything else, I really don't need to know it. Because if the trumpet sounds, I'm hoping that's my ticket. I'm gone.
Right.
So I won't have to worry about what that says, and that's my plan. So anyway, and a lot of times I won't read the letters as much. I'll just stay in the main 4 Gospels, and I'll go Matthew to John, and then when I'm done, I'll flip back and go Matthew to John again. This time I'll switch out the highlighter, pick a different one, and just see if something else. And again, I don't just highlight to be highlighting. It has to catch my attention. It has to mean something that day. And then I'll go, wait, that stood out, and I'll highlight it. And it's just funny as I've gone, it really does. I'll take a picture one day and maybe we can upload it or something where people can see it. But, there'll be like, a big paragraph that's yellow, and then there may be just a 1-liner or 2-liner that's green, and then there will be something further down that's blue, and it's just that progression of, what it meant to me that day, what it caught, and then it kind of starts going together, and I've got a better understanding of that chapter of that book or whatever on a different scale. But, I think it's more important for people to, especially new Christians, before you go branching out, before you go listening to anybody else, give God a chance to work with you directly. Get a Bible that you like. Get a couple of Bibles that you like, or use if you're good at, I can't read from a tablet or my computer. It's not the same.
It's hard for me. I
holding
can,
a book.
But it's hard.
And so, yeah, I can too. In church a lot of times I don't go get my Bible because of my duties before church. I don't want to walk all the way back out there, So I've gotten to where now I'll take my YouVersion, I'll flip it out and use it during church service because half the time it's up on the screen. I don't have to have my Bible with me. But anyway, the point is just give God a chance to lead you. Just any new Christian that I've met, I've told them my personal recommendation, and I'm by no means the authority on it, but my personal recommendation, focus on the 4 Gospels. That's it. Live there for a while until you feel confident enough that you've got a grasp on that, and then move on to the other stuff. Because you need to understand what Jesus said, what he said he came for, what he said his mission was, and what he wants to accomplish. Because then everything else, you and I both are in a theological Sunday school class. We both like studying, and I think it's good for everybody to study. But I think at first you shouldn't get overwhelmed with having to know everything, memorize verses, do all this. Get on the right track with Jesus, get on the right pathway with him. And the 4 Gospels tell you everything you need to know, which is follow Jesus and do your best, with him to live as he did.
Right.
Everything else is, I don't think that there's going to be a multi-page quiz at the pearly gates of, well, let's see how well you know your theology, And so I think a lot of people, what worries me is when we come across people that go, focus on and no, I'll probably get backlash with it. Focus on doctrine. Focus on denomination. Focus on this and that. To me, that's just too eerie of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. It's like Jesus didn't say, "Hey, be sure and memorize all this." His instructions were really, really simple. Love God, follow me, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are our instructions. It's really that simple. So anyway, sorry, didn't mean to take off on a rant.
No, you're fine. See, I tell new Christians, and on my TikTok, I did a short little clip day or two ago. I'm actually using it with purpose. I don't know if you've seen
I've
my
seen
stuff
a few of them, yeah.
but I'm trying to use it with purpose.
That's better than the one I did, which was just a flat out rant against people.
But I like them to tell new or young Christians, start with the Book of John or the Gospel of John, because it is the best portrayal of Christ of the four.
Yes.
It gives the best and the best overall portrayal of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Then read the book of Acts. Acts is going to be a little bit harder to understand, but throughout the book of Acts, you get to watch the early church develop and the struggles they go into, having to realign themselves with what they're actually supposed to be doing. I mean, I think it's in Acts 19, Paul calls out Peter in a large group of people because Peter is saying things that's going back towards the old Jewish way of thinking, not the Christ way of thinking. And Paul calls him out in front of everybody.
Right.
Which, go Paul, because that could not have been easy for Paul to do, to address Peter of all people in that manner. So, I mean, the Gospels, I tell people start with John and then Acts, just because you get the best portrayal of Christ, and then you get to watch the early church develop and some of their struggles.
Yeah.
Well, Shane, thanking you again for giving me your Sunday afternoon. I thoroughly do appreciate it. And next week, I'm hoping Scott and Ed are back with us, and I am looking forward to hearing about their trip to Albania.
Yeah, you've been seeing the pictures, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen them.
It's a cool-looking place. I had no idea.
So I'm looking forward to hearing from them. To the Areopagus group out there, thank them and y'all for watching, and we will see y'all next week.